Welcome to TYT Sports RotoWire. I'm Heather Inkity alongside Ben and Chris, and we might have an Adrian Peterson problem here coming up soon in fantasy football.
Right, or solution to.
I would call
it a problem. It's not about fantasy football; it's about life.
Yeah.
And therein that lies the debate.
Yeah, I think Ben's going to agree with me, but it doesn't really matter. Basically, Adrian Peterson's legal case may be getting to the point where he's pleading no contest. And whether or not he has further legal liability down the road, it's gotten to the point where the NFL now, per their new rules, has to rule on this and say you can play or you can't play, right?
Right, because he's going to have a plea agreement apparently today, pleading no contest, which is not a guilty plea, but is an acceptance of the government's evidence against you. I don't think the NFL is going to care whether you pled guilty or pled no contest. An argument, which it seems like Peterson and his lawyers will try to make, is that, hey, we didn't really plead guilty to this. If I'm Roger Goodell, I'd be like, no contest is guilty in our court. Right. So you accepted the evidence against you. But interestingly, real quick, there's no mention apparently in the plea deal of a child, because again, Goodell's executive order specified, abuse of domestic violence, including domestic violence against children. So even though we know the victim was a child, but the NFL is not held to the same standard as everybody else. The NFL could be like, I don't care whether you didn't mention a child. Everyone in this room knows what it's for. Right. So the issue now is, will the NFL deem the 8 games that he has missed sufficient?
Time served.
Time served. Yeah. It was supposed to be a 6-game suspension or more essentially for extreme circumstances. The problem with just giving him 8 games and allowing him to come back now is that he was paid for these 8 games because he was on the exempt list. And if you create a scenario where he can come back now and had been paid, every other suspended player will say,
pay me for the time missed.
Hey, put me on this, I'll miss as many games as you want. Put me on this exempt list where I get my money.
Right.
So my hunch is Adrian Peterson is looking at 6 more games.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And that is certainly possible and plausible, and that's maybe what will happen. But as
why
fantasy
6
owners,
more?
Because 6 is the number that he set, plus he's already missed 8. So a 14-game suspension where he's not paid for 6 of them is a pretty significant suspension.
And also, it's just PR-wise at this point, the NFL can't be soft on any kind of domestic violence, whether it's against a woman or a child.
But do you think they specifically left child out of that in order to find some sort of NFL loophole?
Yes.
I think they're trying, but I would be surprised if that worked. But
there was no video
know.
of this, right? Which I think makes a big difference, because
there
I think
photos,
the video, right? There are photos and they weren't great.
Right.
Yeah.
But the video of Ray Rice is what fried him, right? They were like, They knew what happened until the other video was released to the public. They were like, we can kind of just get you in, And now it's, he's done because videos are powerful. People respond. So I think that the backlash for this is going to be less than the backlash for Ray Rice. Whether it should be, I don't think so necessarily, but I don't think it would be. People aren't as angry at Adrian Peterson as they are at Ray Rice, I don't think. But all that, okay, we're still speculating. Let's just say there's a 10% chance he plays this year. Let's just forget about what's actually going to happen and say that there's a 10% chance he plays 4 games. Right? During your fantasy playoffs, one of the best running backs in NFL history comes back, right? You got to pick him up if he gets reinstated.
If he's reinstated, I think if he misses 6 games, I would say no, because then he's back. He's back for the last 2. You might, it's worth it. You might get him back for your championship game.
Now with bye weeks and stuff, it's you can't carry him for 6 weeks on the slight chance.
But is he even in football shape? I mean, you can pick him up and what's he been doing? We don't know what he's been doing.
Well, I just want to separate 2 arguments. One is, will he come back? 2. Let's put a percentage on. Let's say it's 5 to 10% he comes back for a significant amount of time at which it's worth using him, okay? In that case, you pick him up, right?
Yes.
Right?
Sure.
There's no argument.
There's a moral argument.
No.
That's the argument.
There is a moral argument
to not picking him up on your fantasy team?
Yeah.
No.
There is.
What's the moral argument?
Dan and I were talking about it before we went up.
Make the moral argument. What's the moral argument?
The moral argument is, what do you tell your kids, right?
You tell your kids, I'm trying to win my fantasy football league, so I picked up Saddam Hussein. I know he's massacred people.
I'd fucking sign Uday.
Yeah.
Jesus, who? This is, the great thing is I'm a parent now, so now I finally get to make these arguments, which I would have made
It's
before.
not hypothetical anymore.
You know how you tell your kids? You parent your kids. Parent your kids. You matter. What you do on a daily basis with your fantasy football team is a 0. Right. It's a 0. If you're a real parent, then it doesn't matter whether you sign. I drafted Michael Sam in a giant league this week where you needed sacks. We drafted 6 pass rushers, and I thought, this will be fun. Because I thought maybe he gets activated a few games into the season and he gets some sacks. I didn't brag about it to my daughter.
Right.
Oh, God, Ben.
Yeah, you don't think I care about gay rights? I drafted Michael Sam in the 15th
Don't you understand? Yeah.
I'm a great person. Look, here's the thing. If you care
Only
about
because
these
he got
issues,
cut. You would be bragging about that to a lot of people.
I did
if
brag
he had
about it.
actually
if
made
you
it.
care about things like domestic violence, go and volunteer somewhere. Get off the couch, man. But if you don't, and that's fine. I mean, if you care just theoretically, but in practice you watch football all day instead of helping people, which is what I do, is I watch football.
Would you pick Ray Rice up?
Of course.
Oh, gosh.
I'd pick Saddam Hussein up, okay? I don't care. I'm not, first of all, you're not picking up Ray Rice or Adrian Peterson. You're picking up stat generator number 4212 or whatever their stat ID is on the commissioner service that throws those stats. And I don't know these guys. I'm not a real life football team. I'm not the Vikings where there's community involvement and me endorsing Adrian Peterson sends a message to the larger community. It's nothing to do with that. It's a mistake. It's a categorical error to think that dropping Adrian Peterson is good, picking him up is bad. You think you're pretending, you're mistaking a symbol for the reality, okay? This is a symbol of Adrian Peterson. It's his name on a commissioner service. You are not picking up the real Adrian Peterson. You are not sending a message to the larger world about the value of what he's done. You are simply maximizing your fantasy team. It's not even like the stock market where you're investing in something and it's actually a real thing. This has no effect on the real world.
I wish I could make a better argument.
No, you made a good argument, but I'll make another argument and tell me whether you like this one.
Okay.
Most people aren't like Chris, and they're not like me, and they're not like you. They are, and I don't even know. I might be in that larger group. Like, I still fail to see fantasy as an investment. It's still enjoyment. Mm-hmm. And if it would bother you to play and root for Adrian Peterson, if that's what you like to do is root for your guys, then yeah, you shouldn't sign him if that will bother you and make it less fun for you. If you'd rather lose than root for guys you hate, last year after the Riley Cooper incident, I was drafting for our friend Michael Schur in a league that he couldn't draft. So I made sure to put Riley Cooper on every team that I got for him because I knew it would drive him insane. And I did.
And it drove good for him.
And it drove him insane. And then he didn't cut him. And then all of a sudden he started playing him. That's right, yeah. So I don't know.
But that's not a moral argument. That's a selfish argument. That's
right.
like, look, I don't like this personally, so, it's like, I want to get a more comfortable sofa when I watch football. Okay, so I buy a sofa. That's not a moral choice. It's just more comfortable for you. That's to me that.
Right, but is the sofa company, was it a pro-choice sofa company?
I don't know. Stop it. Fantasy football is making a difference in the NFL, which I was listening to Colin Cowherd. Anyway, whatever, Colin. And he was saying that there are games where you're being blown out 40-10, but people are still watching because they still want to see Odell Beckham get garbage time, wide receiver garbage time on their fantasy team. And it's actually, people are tuning into those terrible Thursday night games because they might get some points on their fantasy team. So I believe that he has value. I can't really articulate this. People might not want to watch Adrian Peterson. People don't want to give him any more value than he's worth, which is pretty much zero morally to a lot of people.
Yeah, I get it. Did
that make any sense at all?
No, it made sense. But again, it's your own, as Chris said, it's your own choice. It's your own selfish reasons. It's not horrible selfish reasons. Your own internal reasons for how you derive enjoyment. And if you want to watch a game that's 40-3 because you got fantasy players involved, yes. The fantasy has unquestionably done that. For the previous 40 years, although very few people would talk about it, that's what gambling did. Right. It's 40-3 and the over's 45 and you bet it. You're watching. It doesn't matter whether it's 28-21. It's you're watching.
God, why don't they kick that field goal down 40-3?
Right. So annoying. You might need your kicker late in the year. This is a good test.
Right. It's a 15-yard field goal. Why are you going on fourth down?
I started Michael Vick this weekend, and I also gave my dog a big hug.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and also, like, at some point, it just, like, I got it. Adrian Peterson loves his kid and made a terrible, it would appear, and by all accounts, he's an attentive father. He made a terrible mistake that hopefully he has learned a lesson from. So to finish the moral argument for me, like, especially if he's suspended for more games, like, I got it. He's been suspended. He's been punished. Like, now we move on. And if he does it again, he should go to prison.
Right. I mean, it's hard to call it a mistake, though, and he's doing it on purpose repeatedly, like he did it.
No, I mean the mistake of thinking that was okay. He made a hideous moral mistake.
And that's different from the Ray Rice
but it's like,
situation.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think whether or not you're willing to roster Adrian Peterson has zero to do with what. Again, I would start Saddam Hussein, like people who didn't make a mistake, who are committing atrocities. To me, it's like that's what he did in real life. This is like a fantasy game. It has they're completely separate.
Well, you're compartmentalizing like men.
Saddam Hussein had 36 saves. At some point, you need saves.
Right.
You got to sign Saddam. And I'd like some credit for making.
All right,
I'd like some credit for making a Uday reference.
Would you?
When no one expected
that was actually a pretty good reference, and I did get that. We did kind of blow it by it.
I could have gone with Kusei.
Would you pick up Adrian Peterson? Will you pick up Adrian Peterson? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and read all our articles at rotowire.com/TYT.